Now, if you have a little girl and she goes and writes to her, well, not so little, medium little, tries to do research on Barbie, and she'll come to Encarta, one of the main online encyclopedias. This is what she'll find out about Barbie. This is it. There's nothing more to the definition, including manufacturers, plural, now more commonly produce ethnically diverse dolls like this black Barbie, which is vastly better than what she'll find in the encyclopedia.com, which is Barbie Klaus. On the other hand, if they go to Wikipedia, they'll find a genuine article. And I won't talk a lot about Wikipedia because Jimmy Wales is here, but roughly equivalent to what you would find in the Britannica, differently written, including the controversies over body image and commercialization, the claims about the way in which she's a good role model, etc. Another portion is not only how content is produced, but how relevance is produced. The claim to fame of Yahoo was, we hire people to look, originally, not anymore, we hire people to look at websites and tell you, if they're in the index, they're good. This, on the other hand, is what 60,000 passionate volunteers produce in the Open Directory project. Each one willing to spend an hour or two on something they really care about to say, this is good. So this is the Open Directory project with 60,000 volunteers, each one spending a little bit of time. It's opposed to a few hundred fully paid employees. No one owns it. No one owns the output. It's free for anyone to use. And it's the output of people acting out of social and psychological motivations to do something interesting. This is not only outside of businesses. When you think of what is the critical innovation of Google, the critical innovation is outsourcing the one most important thing, the decision about what's relevant, to the community of the web as a whole, doing whatever they want to do. So PageRank, the critical innovation here, is instead of our engineers or our people saying which is the most relevant, we're going to go out and count what people out there on the web, for whatever reason, vanity, pleasure, produced links and tied to each other, we're going to count those and count them up. And again, here you see Barbie.com, but also very quickly, AdiosBarbie.com, the body image for every site, a contested cultural object, which you won't find anywhere soon on Overture, which is the classic market-based mechanism. Whoever pays the most is highest on the list. So all of that is in the creation of content, of relevance, basic human expression. But remember, the computers were also physical, just physical materials. Our PCs, we share them together. We also see this in wireless. It used to be wireless was one person owned a license, they transmitted in an area, and it had to be decided whether they'd be licensed or based on property. What we're seeing now is that computers and radios are becoming so sophisticated that we're developing algorithms to let people own machines like Wi-Fi devices and overlay them with a sharing protocol that would allow a community like this to build its own wireless broadband network simply from the simple principle. When I'm listening, when I'm not using, I can help you transfer your messages. And when you're not using, you'll help me transfer yours. And this is not an idealized version. These are working models that, at least in some places in the United States, are being implemented at least for public security. If in 1999 I told you, let's build a data storage and retrieval system. It's got to store terabytes. It's got to be available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Got to be available from anywhere in the world. It has to support over 100 million users at any given moment. It's got to be robust to attack, including closing the main index, injecting malicious files, armed seizure of some major nodes. So that would take years. It would take millions. But of course, what I'm describing is P2P file sharing. Right? We always think of it as just stealing music, but fundamentally, it's a distributed data storage and retrieval system where people, for very obvious reasons, are willing to share their bandwidth and their storage to create something. So essentially what we're seeing is the emergence of a fourth transactional framework. It used to be that there were two primary dimensions along which you could divide things. They could be market-based or non-market-based. They could be decentralized or centralized. The price system was a market-based and decentralized system. If things worked better, because you actually had somebody organizing them. You had firms, if you wanted to be in the market, or you had governments or sometimes larger nonprofits in the non-market. It was too expensive to have decentralized social production, to have decentralized action in society that was not about society itself, that was in fact economic. But what we're seeing now is the emergence of this fourth system of social sharing and exchange. Not that it's the first time that we do nice things to each other or for each other as social beings. We do it all the time. It's that it's the first time that it's having major economic impact. What characterizes them is decentralized authority. You don't have to ask permission, as you do in a property-based system. May I do this? It's open for anyone to create and innovate and share, if they want to, by themselves or with others, because property is one mechanism of coordination, but it's not the only one. Instead, what we see are social frameworks for all of the critical things that we use property and contract in the market. Information flows to decide what are interesting problems, who's available and good for something. Motivation structures. Remember, money isn't always the best motivator. If you leave a $50 check after dinner with friends, you don't increase the probability of being invited back. And if dinner isn't entirely obvious, think of sex. It also requires certain new organizational approaches. And in particular, what we've seen is task organization. You have to hire people who know what they're doing. You have to hire them to spend a lot of time. Now, take the same problem, chunk it into little modules, and the motivations become trivial. 5 minutes instead of watching TV? 5 minutes I'll spend just because it's interesting, just because it's fun, just because it gives me a certain sense of meaning, or in places that are more involved, like Wikipedia, gives me a certain set of social relations. So, a new social phenomenon is emerging. It's creating, and it's most visible when we see it, as a new form of competition. Peer-to-peer networks assaulting the recording industry. Free and open source software taking market share from Microsoft. Skype potentially threatening traditional telecoms. Wikipedia competing with online encyclopedias, but it's also a new source of opportunities for businesses. As you see a new set of social relations and behaviors emerging, you have new opportunities. Some of them are tool makers. Instead of building well-behaved appliances, things that you know what they'll do in advance, you begin to build more open tools. There's a new set of values, a new set of things people value. You build platforms for self-expression and collaboration, like Wikipedia, like the Open Directory project. You're beginning to build platforms, and you see that as a model. And you see surfers, people who see this happening and in some sense build it into a supply chain, which is a very curious one, right? You have a belief, stuff will flow out of connected human beings, that'll give me something I can use, and I'm going to contract with someone. I will deliver something based on what happens. It's very scary. That's what Google does, essentially. That's what IBM does in software services, and they've done reasonably well. So, social production is a real fact, not a fad. It is the critical long-term shift caused by the internet. Social relations and exchange become significantly more important than they ever were as an economic phenomenon. In some contexts, it's even more efficient because of the quality of the information, the ability to find the best person, the lower transaction costs. It's sustainable and growing fast, but, and this is the dark lining, it is threatened by, in the same way that it threatens, the incumbent industrial systems. So next time you open the paper and you see an intellectual property decision, a telecoms decision, it's not about something small and technical. It is about the future of the freedom to be as social beings with each other and the way information, knowledge, and culture will be produced. Because it is in this context that we see a battle over how easy or hard it will be for the industrial information economy to simply go on as it goes, or for the new model of production to begin to develop alongside that industrial model and change the way we begin to see the world and report what it is that we see. Thank you.